Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin, sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing athletic training equipment since 1932, helping you dominate with fundamentals.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. We have a very special guest today. We have Mr. Joe Salas himself. Super excited to hear from him and learn. And I actually just found out that he is into jiu-jitsu. So watch out. He may come through the podcast and put it on you. But I'll let Bolton get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I know Joe from way back. Coach is we coached together at Red Springs High School back in 2010, and it was a big part of my life. I had to move out of the house and like 2.5 hours away. And that first year you weren't on staff, but the second year you came in, and I was like, who is this guy? He's walking around in a boot. He had just broken his leg, getting an ankle lock or something in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's screaming with the boot on. But no, that was a short time that we were together for that year. And I just remember you doing a really good job of bringing an offense in. And then also, even probably more important than that would be to, change the culture there. I think we went 12-3 that year, first time in school history. And, you and George did a really good job. George Coulthard was the head football coach at that point, and you were the offensive coordinator, and you guys did a tremendous job. And I was just glad to be in the room. And you also took the time to kind of mentor me a lot. And so a lot of things that we've already mentioned in a couple of these episodes already, that, they're Joe-isms. I still keep those with me. So we're excited to have you on. It's a pleasure and an honor. And so Dustin will kind of lead us off with the first part of this discussion.
Well, before you do, that year was one of my favorite years as a coach. They were just the chemistry of that coaching staff just hit just right, and still consider, almost all those guys are still very dear friends, guys that I think very highly of. And those kids were, there's sometimes, and I've run into this before, but there's sometimes when you hit those schools where they're very poor community, and it's a situation where, they want to be there. They don't have anything else, and they really want to be a part of it. I can remember having to run those kids, tell them, okay, you got to go home now. And so those kids were very special, very talented, very special. But that coaching staff, the chemistry on that coaching staff was that was a special, special year, one that I still think back about. And so I'm excited to be here talking to you guys, and it's good to see Jamie again. I think last time I saw Jamie, we were at an Outback after a clinic.
Yeah, that was a good night. Yeah, that was really. George was there too, I think, for a little bit.
I think George was there
for a little bit. Yeah,
for a minute.
He was there for a second. He was there for a second. All right, Dustin, we need to get into the.
That's awesome. Sure, yeah. We'll stay away from the Outback stories. But so Joe, first thing is we just kind of want to talk about your journey in football. We tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started coaching, and kind of just up to now.
I actually started as a volunteer assistant at Valdosta State, and was, it's one of those God things. I came in on Hal Mummy's first staff. So I ended up being the GA and eventually the defensive backs coach on Coach Mummy's staff. And, Mike Leach was the offensive coordinator, and Guy Morris was the O-line coach. And the other GA, the offensive GA, was Dana Holgerson. And there were a bunch of really high-level guys who turned out to be big dog high school coaches in Georgia. So it was just, kind of like we were talking about with that Franklin staff. It was just a God thing that he put me on that staff, and I grabbed hold of those coattails, and it was really life-changing and career-changing getting to be around. Jamie was talking about just being in a room, just being in a room with those guys. I remember I was when I was a kid, I collected football cards, and one of my cards, and I'd make my perfect football squad out of these cards. And the center, that the card I had, Guy Morris, who played for Philadelphia for years, was the center that I had on this team with these football cards. So I was on the staff with Guy Morris for 3 or 4 years, and I think I had one conversation. I was so intimidated by him and so in awe of him that I'd never had a conversation with him. Anytime he walked in, I was just, I just wanted to hear and not, I wouldn't talk to him. And of course, became good friends with those guys. And that's helped me throughout my career. Grew up in a single, raised by a single mom, and didn't really have any male role models. So my high school coaches became my role models, and they didn't. This is kind of for all of us to remember this. They didn't know, my high school coaches didn't know that I was watching them, trying to figure out what kind of man I wanted to be. And, in a small high school, the football, I was with all the coaches in the fall, and then I wrestled in the winter, and my linebacker coach was the coach. And then I played tennis in the spring, and our defensive coordinator was the tennis coach. So I was around those guys year round, and they didn't know, but I was steady watching them, trying to figure out how to be a man, what kind of man I wanted to be, what I want to do with my life. And because of them, I decided I wanted to be a high school coach. I wanted to be in a small school and make a difference, and make the kind of difference that they made with me. So that's kind of always been the key, the cornerstone of my coaching philosophy. Is I love the game and I love the X's and O's, but it's about making a difference with kids and building a toolbox for kids that they're going to use the rest of their life. And here's one of my latest speeches that I give every time I talk somewhere is, our world is getting softer and softer and softer. And literally, if young men don't learn how to be tough from us, where are they going to learn it? There's no place. The world is teaching them to be softer and softer and make excuse after excuse. I know we're going to talk culture here in a minute, but essential question number one in our program is warrior or victim. Every man's got to make that decision. Are you going to be a warrior? Are you going to battle through everything that life throws at you? Or are you going to be a victim and constantly make excuses and constantly point fingers and constantly say, this guy don't like me or that teacher hates me? It's literally every man has to make that decision for the rest of their life. Are you going to be a warrior? Are you going to battle? Or are you going to be a victim and you're going to make excuses? And if they're not learning that from their coaches, their high school coaches, they are not learning it. So we got a super important job. And I know I just went down the rabbit hole there.
You keep going, Coach. I'm gonna go get my helmet out of the garage.
That's culture is something that gets me fired up. But we got a super important job, because if we don't teach them how to be tough, they're not going to learn how to be tough, and the world just keeps making them softer and softer. So Valdosta State, coached in Georgia for about 5 years. I married a North Carolina girl. So I ended up moving up to North Carolina, taught and coached at multiple places in North Carolina. I've always been a turnaround coach. I got a buddy who always makes fun of me. He says, at some point in my career, I'm going to have to take a job that someone else actually wants. I would take the dogs and try to build them up. And we've done a pretty good job of turning places around. So now I'm at Hopton. And I've been there 7 years, and it's a good rural country single A place, and good kids. I've been there 7 years, and I have never seen two boys fight in our school in 7 years. So that tells you a couple things about it.
Yeah,
that's a good dang place with good dang people.
That's awesome.
And that's important to me.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think that's just listening to your journey, you've been to a lot of places and really have coached for, what is that, 70 years? How long have you been coaching now? What is that like?
72, 73 years.
No, but so what, out of all that, what do you think was the most pivotal moment in your coaching career that kind of shaped your coaching philosophy? I know you talked a little bit about, you being a young person and looking at your high school coach, but was there a point like in your coaching career where you're like, this is really, shaping what I really believe in? And you talked about culture a lot.
Well,
if you
I
want to
think three of them is I've always been lucky, even in rec ball. I've always been lucky that I was coached by good Christian guys that cared about kids. And my high school coaches, I mean, they were good dudes, and they cared about kids. And so that stuck with me, you know, that it was about people and it was about shaping kids. Then obviously, you know, just God put me in the right place at the right time with the right people with Hal, and that impacted my career. You know, I was a flex bone option guy going into Valdosta State, and it took about 30 seconds for him to turn me into an air raid guy.
Right.
So that, you know, had a huge impact on me. And then I counted another God thing is, I'm on this journey about culture. You know, I'm hearing this word, and I hope other people, this resonates. I heard this word culture, and when they explained it to me, I was like, yeah, that sounds good, but how do you do it? You know, I'm in, it sounds great. You know, we're going to change the way people think, and, you know, but how do you do it? Tell me how to do culture. So I'm on this journey on how to do, you know, I'm looking up Saban. He's talking about process, and I'm Googling everything I can. I'm reading all the books I can. And then just out of the blue, I get an email and it's like an advertisement email from Brian Cain. And Brian Cain was the first guy that kind of broke it down to the nuts and bolts and infrastructure of, okay, this is how you build culture. You know, I wanted to do it. I just needed to know how you do it. And he was the first guy that broke it down, and I've stolen a lot of his stuff and kind of come up with my own formula on culture. But he was, you know, that was kind of the third, you know, that was a God thing. I don't know how I got that email.
Right.
I don't know how I got on that list, but it changed everything when I got to read his stuff and hear his stuff, and it just it helped me conceptualize how to do culture.
Yeah.
And that made a huge difference.
And just to kind of follow, this is a thought that I always have is like, how do you define like culture? Like that's like a big buzzword, and I know
Sure.
you've done a lot with that, and you know, defining culture I think is huge. How would you maybe define what that means in your program, like the word?
Well, real quick, Coach. You know, I think it was Sarkeesian who I heard it, and you said something that made me, you know, go back and think of this is, you know, implementing it is one, saying it's one thing, but actually implementing it's another. And Sarkeesian, I think, said one time, like, culture is not a saying on a T-shirt. You know, it's what we do in our everyday walk. And when you said the going down the rabbit hole of how do I implement it, you know, it sounds great. You know, it's easy to get T-shirts made with what you believe in, but how do you do it? So I'm interested to hear this too.
Well, the definition wise, and I got on this, you know, back in the 1900s when I was at Valdosta State as a student. I actually found a book in the library called Organizational Culture, and this was before culture was a buzzword. You know, back then it was, you know, you talked about your program, you know, but no one talked about building culture. So I'm reading this book, Organizational Culture, and the definition was shared beliefs, values, and norms of an organization. And then through Brian Cain, he added the most important piece. It's culture is shared beliefs, values, norms, and behaviors of an organization. That your culture means nothing if you're not changing the behaviors in your organization.
And you're talking about the continuum that he talks about, right? The performance continuum. I know he kind of mentions, you know, it's like, what is it? Culture drives the behavior, which then drives performance. I think that's a huge piece of Brian Cain, man. I love that guy.
I think Kite talks about that. Tim Kite.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's Tim Kite. Not
and I love him too. They're all. I mean,
I get them
he's
mixed
another
up.
one.
Yeah.
It breaks it down into the nuts and bolts, but it's behavior. If you're not changing behavior, and that's where, you know, and Randy Jackson talks about, it's a daily fist fight. You know, it is you don't have one meeting and okay, we did culture. You don't have one poster, you don't have one T-shirt. It is a daily fist fight, and you know whether you're winning or losing the fist fight based on behavior. And you know, there's some magic words that you hear when you hear an older guy say to a younger guy, "Hey man, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
That's your call. You have culture.
Right.
If you don't have accountability through, and this was we just got done with we had our first senior leadership meeting a couple weeks ago. And, leadership is about setting the example, holding yourself accountable, and holding other people accountable. And to be very honest, at Hopton, we have a strong legacy on older guys helping young guys. That we have a strong, that's part of our DNA, is the older guys are going to take the younger guys under their wings, and they're going to show them the ropes, and they're going to help them. We're great at that. We are terrible at holding each other accountable. And that has to be the next step. When there's a guy cheating in the weight room and you see him cheating and you don't say something, then there's no accountability, and we're just talking about words on the wall. We're not talking about real culture and holding ourselves accountable. Sometimes you got to give up the fun stuff to get what you really, what losers give up what they want most for what they want right now. Well, then you reverse it. Winners give up what they want right now for what they want most. And so accountability is a huge part, and that's the part we're struggling with, and that's our daily fist fight, is the accountability of, no one wants to be, everyone wants to be cool, and no one wants to be a true leader, and a true leader holds himself accountable. They set the example. They're there early. They're busting their tail, but they also have the nuts and the guts to say, hey man, you got two more. Hey man, that's not the right way. Hey man, that's not how we do it.
Right.
That's accountability. And that's when you're getting it to a super high level. And I remember, and I know I'm being long-winded, but I remember years ago, I was at South, and we took our team to the ECU team camp. And J.H. Rose, is that right? J.H. Rose was there, and they were on a streak where they had won 2 or 3 state championships in a row. And I remember, I was coming back from lunch, and I walked up on their quarterback talking to their kids, and it was like a coach talking to players. But this was their quarterback, and not only was he, issuing orders and holding people accountable, but those young guys were responding to him like he was a coach, like it was important. What he said was important, and that, to me, that always struck me as, and again, that was before we were calling it culture,
right?
But they had a championship culture built. And you could see it with player accountability, and I think that's the next frontier. That's where you got to get to.
It's always, when your best players are leaders, you usually have a really good culture. And
when your best players are your hardest workers,
yes,
and they care the most, you got a chance to be really, really good.
Yep, sure. Well, and I think that's getting harder and harder. I think as I don't know, we've been in it for 15 years or so now, but it seems like it's getting harder to instill that. Have you seen that too, Coach Salas? I don't mean to coach you off, Dustin, but
no, you're good.
Has that been something that you've seen a trend? Is it harder these days, or is it kind of always been like that because they're 15-year-old kids?
Well, I think it's, again, that's the daily fist fight, but it's, anything we put on our kids, we got to put on ourselves. I got a big thing on, players are never going to be more disciplined than their coaches. Players are never going to be more committed than their coaches. So I see it in the coaching staff first. Do you have that level of discipline and accountability in the coaching staff? There's plenty of times, kind of like like the Monday staff meeting, teacher staff meeting, and you go in there, and the teachers are the worst audience on the planet. Like, they would literally freak out if they walked into their classroom and their kids were acting like they act. The same is true for coaches. How many times has a coach missed and he doesn't call and say, hey man, I can't, I'm not going to, I've seen coaches get offended when you say, hey man, what the hell, where were you? What happened? So your kids are not going to be more disciplined or more committed than your coaches are. So it starts with your coaches, and then it trickles down. I saw this past year, and this just might be me, I don't know, because I'm getting old and cranky, but our freshman group this year was the most talented group we've ever had at Hopton since I've been there. Not even close. The most talented group we ever had. And they are the softest group I've ever coached in my entire life. So I don't know if it's just a special, that freshman group, or if it's, I don't know how long we can blame it on COVID, but they were a COVID group. I don't know what it is, but I know that group, talent level is out the gate, and softness, like sometimes, it stuns me how soft they are. We had one, our basketball team, but kid plays football. He's about, asked the coach today, they played on Monday and Tuesday. They're having a practice today, and then they play tomorrow. He asked the coach if he could miss practice today because he was really tired from the 2 games they played on Monday and Tuesday. What just happened? Explain that to me.
He's going to be there for the game tomorrow, though. He'll be there for the game on Thursday.
Yeah. I just got to get my legs back under me.
He'll get his legs back under him.
Is that where? But that goes back to
that's where
the whole. Yeah. If they're not learning toughness from us, they ain't got a chance, man. They have to learn it from us. But we have to, just like we want our seniors to be the leaders, set the example. We have to set the example. We have to hold ourselves accountable, and then we got to hold them accountable. And that is a daily fist fight to get that part done.
No, I totally agree, Coach. And I've always heard like great coaches say, good teams are led by coaches, but great teams are led by players. And it's one thing to take the young kids under your wing, but like you said, to truly be able to look up here in the eyes and say, no, you're not done. You got 2 more reps. Like, you're cheating, to quit what we used to call the brother-in-law. And like, no, we're not going to lean against each other. We're not going to, hey, let's go soft on this play. That way, we both get some shine time. It's, listen, you're going to give me your best. I'm going to give you my best. And that's something hard these days. I totally agree. Coach, one thing that I want to ask is, think about your first year coaching, the year you talked about. If you could go back right now and tell your first year coaching self one thing that you don't think you knew then that you know now, what would it be?
I definitely tell myself to be more patient, and that's a daily fist fight for me, is the patience part. I can remember when I was coaching in Georgia, I was at a place called Dooley County, which is loaded with talent. If I would have known then what I know now, I would have won 15 state championships there. But I'm so fanatical that we have a hurricane coming in through the Gulf. We're in South Georgia. The hurricane is supposed to hit us at 6:00. So we practice till 5, and then I send them home. Probably not the best idea. And I can remember that the superintendent came to me the next day and he said, yeah, we probably don't need to do it that way next time. But I was like, what, man? It's supposed to be here at 6. We left a game an hour. They had plenty of time to get home.
Doppler radar. Doppler, super accurate.
That's the kind of dumb young guy stuff that I was good at, all the young dumb guy stuff, because every practice was had a life unto itself, that kind of deal.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, man. It makes sense. So I know we've been talking about a lot of culture or your philosophy. I really want to kind of get into how you instill those things, So like the first one that I like you talked about toughness a lot. Do you think that's the number one value that you try to instill in your program right now, is toughness, or is it something else?
To me, toughness is very personal. So yes, I mean, if you're talking about a personal philosophy, like I have 2 girls, and they're grown up now. One of them's married, one of them's just got promoted to vice president at her bank. They're grown up now. When they were little kids, they're growing up. They got brainwashed. Salases are tough. That was the number one thing I wanted out of those 2, and they were pretty little girls now. They were cheerleaders. They weren't stud volleyball players or basketball players. They were cheerleaders now. But they had to know Salases are friggin' tough. And Salases can handle anything that comes at them, because Salases are built for it. And God made you, and he made you friggin' tough, and you can handle anything that comes your way. And that was a big deal for me, even with 2 little girls. So toughness, yeah, by far is number one in my book. Here's how we lay it out. We call it I'm in the process of writing a book on this one. We call it 4 cornerstones of championship culture. So when you talk about how do you build culture, we have mission, we have core principles, we have relationships, and we have process. And obviously process breaks down. There's 2 kinds of process. There's the day-to-day of getting better and better. And then on game day, process is more talking about focusing on the little things that make big things happen. Those are the 2 kinds of process. But our mission is to teach boys how to be men and build winners for life. And, going back to, deep core, who I am, what I'm about, it's about teaching kids how to be men. And so how do you teach them how to be men? Well, that goes to core principles. We have 5 core principles. They're tied to 5 days of the week. This answers your question exactly, Jamie, is our 5 core principles: attitude, leadership, work ethic, toughness, and family. And we tie them to a day of the week. So every Monday, we're talking about attitude. Every Tuesday, we're talking about leadership. Every Wednesday, we're talking about work ethic. Every Thursday, we're talking about toughness. And every Friday, we're talking about family. So that is our daily lesson plan. So there's no, I alluded to, I had high school coaches that were good Christian dudes and they cared about kids. And I can remember, and I'm the dumb guy that, I knew I was going to be a coach even back then because I loved practice, and the coaches would break out into a sermon at the end of practice. Probably never heard a sermon at the end of practice, and I would be glued to it. And they told great stories and taught great lessons, but it was all random. It was all, it was however it hit you that day. That's how. So our core principles, when we tie them to a day of the week, it organizes our lesson plan. That's our lesson plan. And then the head coach. The head coach, it's going to be the head coach most of the time. But we try to do this. I'll go through all 5. I'll take a week and I'll go through all 5 core principles. Then the next assistant coach will go through. And then the next one, and then the next, we'll go through the whole coaching staff. Then we'll go to the seniors and they'll do it for their week. And then we'll go all the way down to the juniors. So it is the same core principles, but it's different stories. It's different points of view about the same core principle. But most importantly, it's different voices. So they're not just hearing me talking all the time. And as well, we know more than anybody, the teacher is the one who learns the most. So when it's their week to teach, they're learning more than anyone else on the place, and because they're having to think about the example, the story, how am I going to explain this? So that's another level of learning, is when you're having to present it, you're learning it in a different way.
Yeah, we did something very similar. Yeah, when I was a head coach at Cannon, I think I got this from seeing your stuff online too. Is we took our core values and we had a guest speaker come in the community to speak on those same things too. And I also did it during the week too, but it was nice to get other people in the community that were respected to come in and talk about, what it means to fight, that toughness, something in their life. And I think that resonated a lot with our kids. So I'd love to hear that.
You just remind, and I think I'm blaming on COVID. I think when COVID hit, I stopped doing it, but we used to have Real Life Wednesday, and I used to always bring in someone from the community to talk. And then we, on Tuesday, we bring in our FCA guy comes in and does his thing. But I used to always have a Real Life Wednesday, and I always wanted to be a business person from the community. And I that's one that kind of slipped. I stopped doing it when COVID hit, and I haven't started back up. But thanks for reminding me that.
Yeah,
because that was a big deal.
Yeah, and I think things change too. You can adapt to, different communities. Like right here where we're at, we're doing a teammate of the week, and the teammate actually chooses the next teammate, and they have to tie that back into at least 2 of our core principles. And they stand up in front of the team and they tell them, this is why we chose them, because they're showing, whatever that core value may be, and they give an example, and everybody claps and they take a picture and put it on social media. So but there's a lot of people in our community they look forward to seeing that on social media, not just the highlight tape and all that. So that's good. Those are really good ideas from you. I think that's what we're going to do, a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start taking notes, Coach.
I'm taking them right now
to some good stuff, and I think it's one thing to teach the value, but then the application from different people's lives each week, that's huge, because attitude to you, Coach, and attitude to Jamie, and attitude to me, we could all apply it in different situations and scenarios to reach every single kid, because they all are going through something different. And there may be kids that relate to what we teach more than what another coach teaches, and then you start having their peers do it. That's a great idea. I really like that a lot. And it's, kind of that rabbit hole we always go down, Jamie, where, application's greater than knowledge. Like, you can know the values, but how are you applying it in the everyday life of a high school kid?
Story I'd love to tell, and I've told it multiple times, but we were on a Thursday, so it was Toughness. Toughness was the core principle, and it was in the winter, so we were in the weight room. During the fall we do it at practice, but in the winter and spring we do it in the weight room. So first period, kid gets up, and and it's tell the core principle, tell our definition, because we have a working definition so that we're all on the same page, and then give an example. That's all they had to do. Well, first period, the kid gets up and he gives the example of our starting quarterback. And he tells some story about our starting quarterback. And he was dead on. All right. At that time, our starting quarterback was tough as friggin' nails. He was a dang warrior. So the kid tells this story about our starting quarterback. Third period rolls around, and it's an O-lineman. He gets up, he does it, and then when he gives his example, he says, my example is my mom. She's a single-parent mom. She works all day, comes home, cleans the house, and then cooks dinner for me and my brother, and she does it day after day after day. So that one was they were so different, and they were so impactful, that, because especially, me growing up with a single mom, there's no one tougher on the planet than a single mom that works all day and still does all, she's playing two roles. Those are tough friggin' people. So, the difference between those two examples in the same day was the idea of why it's so important to get different voices telling different giving different examples. And then, Jamie, you just reminded me another one that I've stopped doing. I got to start doing again. We did something very similar. We called it the circle. And we would every Thursday we'd circle up and we would pick someone, and we started with the seniors and went all the way down, and we would and I would always start it. We'd pull them out. He'd stand in the middle of the circle, and I would just say, I like Mike because, and I would tell what I like about him. Then on a voluntary basis, they would go around the circle, and different guys would say different things about Mike, what they liked about him. No, never anything negative. It was always something. It could be anything. Well, we're late in the season, so we're working our way down. All the superstars have already gone. And so I can't even remember the kid's name, but it was some backup kid, like never got in a game, but he was always on scout team. And, I call him out and I say something good about him. Our starting linebacker stands up and he says, I like Mike because he always gives the best scout looks of anyone on this team. And it always helps me get ready to play on Friday because he cares so much and works so hard to give us a great scout look. Well, you can imagine, it was like the dang Grinch. You can imagine what happened. That kid grew 3 inches and, and had a pride to him that he never had before because that was a starting stud linebacker said that in front of the entire team. And then you can imagine what kind of scout look he gave the rest of the year, down the stretch, because that impacted that kid like nothing. Anything I said, he don't, to this day, he don't remember what Salas said, but he remembers what that dang linebacker said because it meant something to him. And it was real. You could tell it was real. And just the impact that had. So that, again, that's one I've let slip, and I need to get back to it.
Well, I like that. you're kind of bringing these up, because I think that brought something else to my mind, is like, that's a good evaluation of where your culture is. So like, if you have a guy that can, look to another kid and say why that's important, and then try to tie that back into a core value or your mission or whatever that is. And it's also relationships. You talked about your four squares. Like, that's a big thing for you to notice and say, man, our culture maybe today our culture was good. It's a daily battle, but today it's good. Do you have any other like ideas or thoughts about how you see your culture? You talked about, you looked at the freshman class as being a little softer than most, but how do you evaluate your culture? And is it day to day? Is it year to year? Kind of give us some insight on that.
I mean, I don't have a real evaluation. I just try to keep doing the important things, and just, and it happens in the weight room,
Right.
It happens in the weight room in college. It happens in the weight room with us. That's where the fit fight's going to happen every single day. And more than I remember when I was getting CrossFit certified, and I'm in the middle, they make you do one of those workouts, and I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for it. Up until then I was like, man, this is a fantastic clinic. And then they said, all right, we're going to do a Fran. I was like, what? And so after that, I'm sore and I can't move. And I remember thinking, that freaking working out is friggin' hard. Squat day is friggin' hard. Our kids were holding up signs today. You can't spell legendary without leg day today. They were holding it in front of each other while they were doing squats. It was 8 sets of 6 today. So much of toughness is revealed in the weight room. And I always say, this is another one I always talk about, sports don't build character. Sports reveal character.
Yeah.
If you got a fantastic kid, when we're down by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that kid's going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. If you got a butthole, when you're down by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, he's going to reveal himself, and he's going to be the one that embarrasses you and, has his helmet off and separates from the crowd. Sports is a revealer of character. It's not a builder of character. You have to build character on purpose. And, that the core principles tied to a day is just the best way that I've seen to do that. We do, we do a lot of relationship stuff. We do, the first Friday of spring practice, we make them all spend the night with somebody, and that's always a big deal. We do a team night in the summer where we used to do a sleepover back when I was younger, but now I'm old, so we send them home at 9:00. But we're there all day long, and we practice 3 times, and we do all kind of team building stuff, and we go to eat together. We do a 7-on-7 at the beach in the summertime, and after we're done doing 7, and it's one where we do 7-on-7, and the big guys come and they do stuff, and then we take them to the beach and take them to eat afterwards, and that's all we at our place. A lot of our kids have never been to the beach before. That's their first exposure to the beach. So I get all the coaches are, I got to act like my mom for an hour while they're all swimming around in there. Stop running. Who's playing? You're too deep. So I'm out there with my whistle, blowing my whistle, but it's one of those things where you can tell that even, and this is one, I don't know if we used to do this, Jamie, but it's a big deal to us when we do 7-on-7. We always go to McDonald's afterwards. That's like automatic. And there's something about getting the kids in the air conditioning and letting them sit down together, and they all sitting at different tables, and they're all talking and having fun. And that, to me, that's when you're building relationships. Team camp, I don't know if it's worth the reps, but I know when you get them kids in the dorm rooms and they're all, they're all 50 of them are in 3 rooms after lights out, and they're all in there. That's relationship. They're building friendships that are going to last the rest of their lives. So we have a mom's night. I don't know, did we do that back? We have a mom's night, and it's probably one of the most powerful ones we do, where I have the kids write a letter to their mom, and I always keep it simple, I want you to tell your mom thank you for something. You come up with what you're going to thank her for. And they write the letter, and then the moms come in the locker room before the game when we circle the wagons, and they give them the letter. And the mom wears the away jersey. It's a home game. I think we usually do it on the second home game of the year. So the moms wear their away jerseys, and they give them the letter, and they circle the wagons with us. And then they make a fan tunnel out to, from the field house to the field.
Wow.
And then the senior moms all go up in the stands after the game, and the seniors go up there with them, and they get a picture with the seniors and the moms all together, a group shot. So, all that to me, I always wanted the high school experience, their high school career to be the apex of their high school experience. That when they're the day you're finding out, you just told me you've been coaching 15 years. The day high school reunions start coming pretty quick, don't they? All of a sudden, 10, 15, 20 years, they start coming quick. And when you go back there, and I always tell them that when you go back to that high school reunion for the first time, you got two things on your mind. You want to see your old girlfriend, and then you want to see your boys. And you're going to spend all your time with your boys, and you're going to be talking about football, and you're going to be talking about sports, and you're going to be talking about the good old days. And we know now, you guys are old enough, sometimes it's going to be 15 years before you see them guys. Some of them guys that were your best buddies, and then you both went to different colleges, and you haven't seen that guy in 15 years. And when he was one of your players, when he played football with you, the conversation starts back up just like it was yesterday.
Right.
And to me, that's real life, and that's important.
That common experience.
Those bonds last forever.
They do.
Yeah, Coach, and I think everything you've been saying is just great. I mean, it is really valuable information. We've done similar stuff in the past when me and Jamie were coaching together, but also separately. We've done a lot of those things. I know we both have done the summer trips, and just I remember walking down the hall at bed check, and I just hear a bunch of racket, and I open the door, and we have a freshman who literally just comes along for the experience, and he's in there singing "Sorry, Miss Jackson," and everybody has their lights on and their video in it, and it's just the everlasting friendships that you create. And I think you've talked a lot about how you implement and the good parts of implementing culture. So we're going to kind of swing a little bit. How do you handle when athletes or there's some team morale issues, and there's resistance to that change or that culture you're trying to instill? Because there are times where and we all know this as high school coaches, you don't always have that buy-in. You don't have those guys who show up and present that toughness or follow what you're trying to do. So what is your best, I guess, intervention plan to handle those issues when there's resistance to cultural change?
I wish I could tell you, brother. I haven't experienced it because of this. One of the first conversations I have with the seniors when I come into a program, I sit down, I say, all right, tell me what the problems are. And every single time from 25 years ago to 7 years ago, every single time they'll say, well, we don't have enough guys committing in the summer, and we don't have enough guys working hard in the weight room, and we don't have good leadership, and we don't work hard at practice, and they'll list all the stuff, and they'll get done making that list, and you'll be like, I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what's wrong. So how are we going to fix that? Because this is your last chance. And to me, I hammer the last chance stuff. When we hit spring practice, I'll tell them, all right, this is the last spring practice you're ever going to have at Hopton High School. That's a big deal. And then first day of summer, this is the last first day of summer you're ever going to have at Hopton High School. And then the first game, this is the last time you'll ever have an opening game at Hopton High School. The next time you come to opening season, you're going to have to buy a ticket. This is a big friggin' deal. And when you start talking that way, it starts resonating with them, because you know that even now, how many on the senior night talk, how many of them stand up and say, can't believe it happened this fast. All of them do. Every single one of them do. And we have them senior night talks. I've never had one say, man, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. I wish I wouldn't have committed so much. I wish I wouldn't have lifted so. I've never. They all say the opposite. Hey, I'm telling you, it's coming faster than you think. You better bust your tail in the weight room. You're gonna get to that senior year, and you're gonna realize this is it. This is your last chance. They everything that we tell them, they echo because it's all true. So I've never had. I'm more when I come into a new place, it's more about just saying, look, this is how it works. The first year comes down to senior buy-in. You know, the second year, the third year, that's on me. But the first year is all about how quick the seniors jump on board when they and how quick they realize this is it. This is your last chance. So are we gonna go all in, or are we gonna hold back? And that's essential question number 2. You know, are you gonna go all in, or are you gonna hold back? And you can ask them. You say, all right, have you ever played a game and you know you didn't give it everything you had, and every freaking hand will go up, and then you know, but then the follow-up question where you nail them between the eyes, you say, well, why not? You'll never get that game back. Why wouldn't you go all out? Why wouldn't you squeeze all 48 minutes out of it? Why wouldn't you give it everything you had? Because this is football. It's not basketball. It's not baseball. We don't get to see them again in 4 weeks. We got to wait 365 days to get another piece of their ass. So you better get it all you got. Every bit of it, you better get it this time, or you're going to be waiting for 365 days, and they get to say anything they want. If they get the best of you, they get to talk all they want for 365 days before you get a chance to show them wrong. And if you're a senior, guess what? You're going to see that guy at the gas station in 7 years, and he's going to get to say, I whooped your tail your senior year. So to me, it's a big friggin' deal. And I'm never going to walk out of one saying, oh man, I didn't, you know, I tell them the deal. If I ever rob a bank, it's going to be for $79 billion, because I ain't going to jail for less than that. But if they catch me, if they got to shoot me, when they find my body, when they look at my gun, there's going to be no bullets left in it. It's just going to be smoking empty gun, because I ain't going to get caught with bullets left in my gun. And that, to me, that's a warrior or victim. You know, are you going to go out swinging, or are you going to put your hands up and they get to decide whether they're going to shoot you or not? You know, that, to me, that's a big deal. And that's part of being tough. That's part of being a warrior. That's just part of being a man. You know, I see sometimes I don't, you guys probably look at, you're probably TikTok kids, but I'm a Facebook guy because I'm old, because I'm from the 1900s. But they got one now where they'll say women want to die peacefully in their sleep, and men want this, and it shows some heroic scene from a movie. And I've never seen one that I didn't say,
Yep.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Man, like one of the most impactful ones that you taught me, we were at Red Springs, and you and George, I think you brought it up to George, and he was all for it, is you had the guys line up on the goal line on a Thursday practice before the playoff game. And I was thinking at that point, I was like, well, that's a meaningful moment for those kids, but it's really not for those kids in my mind. I think it was more for the underclassmen, because as they go shake those hands of those guys and tell them this could be our last time we practice together, it kind of settles for them, you know, maybe the future for them, like this is a big deal. And I just thought that's awesome. There's the little things that you've always done to tie in the bigness of all this, the finality and the importance.
I even heard Philly talking about it. You know, they said they had a team meeting before the Super Bowl. All of them were in there saying how special that team was, and that they didn't want it to end, because literally it's like high school. Because of free agency, that's never going to be the same team again. So, and they were all saying, we don't want it to end. So they wanted the parade, and they wanted the ring ceremony. They wanted one more night. And can't you identify with that? You know, just Absolutely. One more game, Coach. Just just one more quarter. You know, they're all so precious, and they're so, for a man, I mean, they're meaningful. To me, it's never been just a game. It's always been so much more than that.
And your big three things. This is you haven't mentioned it yet. I don't know if you still use it. I tell this to Dustin all the time. Football.
It was like the other episode we just talked about.
Yeah. So football's three things. Football's got to be fun. It's got to be hard, and it's got to be meaningful. And that last piece is what I think you do such a good job of making it special for the people that play for you, and the community. I'm sure is extremely grateful, and they should be. Man, you make it special.
Well, I'm trying to make it special for the kids because they don't realize, even when a senior's fully locked in and he realizes, okay, this is it. You know, somebody's seniors are practicing basketball on Monday. You know, to me, that's always such a motivator. Mm-hmm. Somebody's seniors are practicing basketball and somebody's are practicing football.
Yeah,
I know which one I want mine to be. But even the ones that are locked in, I mean, there's so much about being a man you don't learn, you don't figure out for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. But I mean, think about it. You guys are a lot younger than me. How meaningful was it?
Oh, yeah.
That experience, that senior year, your guys, and you probably never had all them guys back together again yet, you know, but we don't realize that because we're young and dumb at the time. So even when we think we realize it, we don't realize that, guess what? At the 10-year reunion, a couple of them guys are going to be dead. A couple of them guys are going to be working in California. They're not going to be at the reunion. You're literally, the last time you're together is that last time. And that, man, it just means so much.
It does.
No, it really does. And I think that's one of the cool parts about social media. You know, I'm on the tail end of the Facebook group where kids, you know, I'm
still
on Facebook. Yeah. Like, I think I'm like the last couple years. I was born in 95. So, you know, if you're born 99 or past that, like, Facebook's not cool. It's for old people. But, you know,
talk about you don't know till you know. There's so many things. I can remember when I thought texting, like, I can't say it, but I thought it was not good. And then I thought Facebook, same thing. Like, my wife was on Facebook, and I was like, all right, if you see something on Facebook I need to know, just tell me. I don't need to be on Facebook. And then I got on there I finally joined it to send her something on her birthday, you know. And as soon as I got on there, like 30 former players, you know, friended me.
Hilarious.
I was like, this is amazing. You know?
Just being able to
remember seeing kids were like always looking at their phone. I'd be like, what are these kids doing? They're always looking at their phone. Now I'm
you're like locked in.
I would say that's one of my favorite parts about social media is you get to keep up with every part of football that you've come in contact with. So the guys you played with, and, you know, I was blessed enough to play 2 years of a small D2 football, but I have so many teammates that have gone on to different states and doing different things. So, like, the guys you play with in high school, the guys you play with in college, and now every kid that's come through every program that I've been at, just seeing them, like, you know, we had a long snapper from York that took pride in being the long snapper. He just got engaged a couple of days ago, and I found out via Instagram. You know, it's just seeing those moments that come post football. It really hits home.
Yeah.
So it's
this is the one where, and you guys are young, so you'll remember this. I got connected to one of the kids that was on my very first team as a head coach, and we're talking, you know, we're texting back and forth, and he says something about his son, and you know, so I you know, well, remember now, you know, the most time you get with them is from age 0 to age 18. You know, that's like, they say that's like 70% of the time you get to spend with your kid. He says, yeah, I know. He's already graduated college. So I didn't realize, you know, you don't realize how young we were,
right,
and how short the age difference is on those first few teams. Like, this kid was like 46 years old that I'm talking to. And I'm thinking, in my mind, he's like 23, you know, he was 46 years old.
I did the same thing back at Red Springs. I was like, oh, this guy's married now? That's crazy. Oh, wait a minute. He's like in his 30s. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You're only 4 years older than him.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, we're like the same age. It's great. Well, that's a good segue, man. I think now we're, talking about new technology and adapting to a new world of like coaching. Coaching has obviously evolved over the years. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in coaching? And this could be anything, but really maybe technology, or maybe it's culture, or maybe it's managing like the recruitment process. What are some things that you've seen that have changed, that you've had to do things to implement to kind of help you adapt to the new?
Well, you'll think both of these are funny. Huddle was life changing, and unfortunately, and you guys don't ever remember this, but it was a big deal figuring out where you're going to meet the other coach and exchange the tapes, and you're exchanging either I was exchanging VHS tapes,
That
and
was
then
my high school
CDs,
days.
and but where you were going to meet and what color truck they were in, that was a big deal. But you got to meet other coaches in the conference and the other coaches you played, and you would sit there and BS with them for a half hour, an hour, and you got to know people. And today, heck, we get to game day, and I'm like, okay, which one's the head coach? You just don't get that relationship that you used to. But I mean, the huddle, holy crap, that's changed the game. And then I'm sure you guys are at big rich schools, but the sideline
the replay
video stuff, that's a game changer. We got the tent, the chairs, and the big screen, and we sit down and so for once you don't get to Monday and say, oh, that's what they were doing, because
you don't need Coach Bolton in the box for you anymore.
No, I still
trying to tell you which way to run dart.
Up in the box, but
which way to run dart.
Now my line coach says which way to run.
Oh, there you go.
Run counter, but
I think you were just giving me a job. Hey man, just give me.
I wish this was a play calling wise. I wish we would have done this back then. Now I'm in charge of my sideline. The guy in the box is in charge of the far sideline because he can see it, and I'm old now. I can't see the far sideline. And the O-line coach is signaling the plays and telling us which way to run the counter.
I like that. I like it.
So it's really a three-headed monster now, and we didn't have it like that back when I had you, which you would have torn that up. But having that, and it's, we always say, we want the low-hanging fruit, and we want you to dominate the sideline. So, corner, walk, player, safety, that's all you care about.
Right.
But you dominate that sideline and make sure on Monday we don't say, we should have thrown more hitches.
Right.
We should have thrown more quick screens. Well, the vertical is there. Just take the low-hanging fruit. Don't tell me the double reverse pass. Tell me, throw the quick screen, throw the slant, throw the hitch, take the low-hanging fruit, but dominate that side, because I'm going to dominate my side, and the O-line coach he's going to tell us which way to run the counter. Yeah. So between the three of us, it is a three-headed monster now. And when I had you guys, I wish I would have had that system, because I had a bunch of bright dang coaches that could have ate that alive.
Well, Coach, it's funny. I have a great story you'd like to hear, Coach Salas. We're at York in 2018, and we were at Ridgeview down in Columbia, South Carolina. And, we get there. Me and Bolton would always go sit on the bench pregame and just watch the other team warm up. And this team had some cats. Like, we sat on the bench and looked at each other and said, it's getting ready to go two ways. It's going to be close, or we're getting ready to get blown out of the water. Like that, they were just absolute freak players. So anyways, we get to the game. Our defense does a great job, blocks the extra point. There's like a minute and 30 seconds left to go. We're winning 24-23. And, it's on us. It's on the offense. Like, we got to run the clock out. They still had like 3 timeouts. And I was the box coach for Jamie, and he was calling the plays. And we get to like 3rd and 6, and we get in a rebel formation that's unbalanced. And Jamie, false snaps and try to get him jump off sides. And he's like, what do you think? I said, man, I don't know. Like I'm good with that. He said, let's go quick pitch. I don't think we ever have ran that play yet. We practice it all the time. He said, and my favorite moment was, this is going to be really good. And he goes, unless we fumble it, then that would really suck. And sure enough, we ran it, and, we got the first down. But that moment was just such a great moment. And then that leads me to the second story. We're at Greer, second or third round of the playoffs. And, we had a dart play in, and I told Bolton, I said, we have the look, we need to run it now. And we end up scoring, and he's like, great call. I said, hey man, our tackle did not kick the end. We didn't block the end. Our double team on the play side did not get to any linebacker. That's all the running back. That has nothing to do with us. But those two moments.
But you got to have guys that you can trust up top. And with replay system or not, I think the replay system is great, but that's only post. You only kind of use that in post drive scenarios. But it's good stuff, man.
I'm doing that Air Raid Academy, that the monthly subscription, and part of it is I do, we do cut-ups on Monday, and we do full game O's on Wednesday. So I'm going back, I'm just going through our old games. So I just started the first year and moving forward and watching it. Number one, it's amazing how pissed off I can get watching a game that happened 6 years ago. but then I'm sitting there, and now I'm having to narrate them. At first I was just letting them play. That wasn't as bad, but now I got to narrate it. Some of those games we're just getting murdered. But I'm watching it, and I mean, I did not realize how good a running back we had, because we've had a 1,000-yard rusher every year. That year, it was all that kid. I mean, we didn't block anybody. We would miss everybody on plays, and he'd make 4 yards. And I was like, damn, I didn't realize how good he really was. That kid was a stud. We didn't block nobody. Awesome. So, but I was sitting there, I'm trying to be cool and narrate, and I'm getting mad as hell. We're missing a block 6 years ago, and I'm still getting pissed off.
That's funny, man. Well, yeah, talk to us a little bit about the your Air Raid Academy. Obviously I follow you and I see that stuff. How does that work? What is that about?
It's a monthly subscription, and I just set it up where Sunday night we do a Q&A, which hasn't been a Q&A yet. So it's turned into basically I'll do whoever I have on YouTube that week. I'll do like a different. I'll take that guy, and like if I had Jamie, he might be talking about stick route on YouTube, and then after we're done with that, I'll say, okay, man, tell me how you do culture. I'll just hit them with a question. Like last week, we had a guy who just wrote his first book. So after the YouTube episode was over, I just said, okay, I know we got a bunch of guys that got a book in them. So tell us, how do you do it? How do you write a book and get it published? And he just went through it.
Wow.
He gave like 10 different things on, here's how I did it. Here's what was hard. Here was it easy. Go to this website, do the, he just kind of gave tips for guys who, you got a book in you, Jamie?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got a book in you, Dustin? I mean, almost everyone's got a book in them. So I figured, well, heck, now let's get this guy to just give you some tips on how to
get started.
It's a Sunday night's turned into that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then Monday night is cut-ups. Tuesday is a culture, something about culture. And then Wednesday's a game-o. And like I said, just going back 7 years. And
this is all live?
No, all recorded. All recorded. So it's all,
That's nice.
at this point, there's probably 15 hours worth of stuff in there.
That's cool.
And it's $23 a month, or you can do a year subscription.
You just go to, is it just a website, Air Raid Academy?
Through Coach Joe. Just go to
Okay.
Coach Joe. It's through there, and they host it, and they've done a good job for me on that. So just a cool thing. I read a Russell Brunson book, and he was talking about these subscriptions. So I said, man, let me try this thing out. We'll see. So we're just
That's
doing
awesome.
It's been fun, and
cool.
got a handful of guys that are part of it. So hopefully we're giving them some value for it.
Good. And you also got the book out.
Got the book, finally wrote it.
Was this before you asked the guy about the book stuff? Like you already figured it out, or
Yeah, no, I'd already done
Okay.
it. I got it out. It's probably been out a year now.
Okay.
But funny story, I was I've been doing this, been working on that Four Cornerstone book. That's like my baby, the Four Cornerstone, the culture book. And I had a goal, I think it was 2023 is like, I got to have this book done 2023. And I get like, I don't know, it's like November. And I'm like, man, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to be able to finish this book. So I said, let me just do an easier one. So I do this one, and
Air Raid Playbook and Manual.
So I'm talking to George. Well, no, George comes to me just out of the blue, and he says, "Hey, man, I'm writing a book."
Oh
and
no!
I said, "Oh yeah, what are you doing?"
What do you call it?
It's the exact same thing.
You Air Raid guys.
Damn, George,
You
that's
Air
exactly
Raid
what I'm
guys.
doing.
That's awesome.
Oh, it'll be okay. They don't care.
Did he write it anyway?
Yeah, he did it. He did one too.
Okay. Y'all should have done each other's forwards. You should have forward by Joe Salas, forward by George Coulthard.
I should have actually. I didn't think of that. But
Joe, my question: you're an Air Raid guy, so one of my best friends that I grew up with, we played in middle school, and we actually just coached the last 2 years together. He got the head job at South Lake Christian. His name's Caleb. He's an Air Raid guy. Do you, being an Air Raid guy, do you use the same terminology as the Air Raid, like the 90 series and whatnot, or did you kind of revamp your terminology, being an Air Raid guy?
Our 90s are the same. We've renumbered the quick game, so our quick game numbers are a little different than Hal's, but 92 still 92, baby.
Gotcha. No, that's good. So Bolton, you want to kind of move into our 2-minute drill, rapid fire, give him some questions?
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, So first one, Coach, very first play or first question. What is your favorite play to run when under pressure?
We're going to run counter if we're running it, and we're going to run probably slant shoot if we're throwing it.
I love slant shoot. Is that you still running it kind of mirrored with the?
Yep, still mirrored.
Man, I love it. Still settle a little bit. I love that one, man.
Yep.
I got to put that one back.
We're big on quick screens. We're big. The one that we're different now than when you were with us is our 96. Our vertical game is now that deep choice stuff. That browse.
We need to sit down and talk about that.
Yeah, I want to get in on that.
That's a game changer now. That really was. That counter was a game changer.
And then
because with dart, if they go head up twos on you, they take away your angle and it's hard. But counter, it don't matter. I don't care.
When you're saying counter, like Coach, you're talking about one back guard tackle?
Yeah, we're talking GT counter.
Yeah.
And we're finally gonna have to get into some HG counter, but or HT, whatever you do. But we've always been just GT counter out of 4 wide.
Yeah.
But then 96 with the deep choice has absolutely changed everything, because now, like when me and Jamie were together, I always felt like, all right, what are they going to do? They're going to try to stop the quick screens, and then they're going to drop a bunch of blitzes against you. Mm-hmm. Well, with the choice route, we're a vertical team, we're a screen team, and we're a GT counter team. So we're literally attacking every part of the field.
Right.
And I think it just puts a different kind of pressure on them.
It's good. Sure. All right, I'll take the next one. All right, most memorable game as a coach. Is that the one where you scored like 130 points?
No. George almost shot himself after that game. So it's still a sore topic.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Neighborhood. The semifinal game in 2009 to go to the state championship game, we went to triple overtime, and that was like everything, all air raid guys. I always say it this way, if you're on offense, you got to be dreaming that it comes down to a bandit drive. If you're on defense, you got to be dreaming that it comes down to a goal line stand. If you're a kicker, you got to be dreaming that it's going to come down to a field goal. I mean, that's how winners dream. They dream about those pressure situations. And even though it wasn't a bandit drive, going triple overtime to go to the state championship game, pretty sweet. That's how my dreams happen. Is it? I love a good blowout now, but there's nothing like, come on, triple overtime. The winner gets to go to the state championship game. That's a dang special one.
Those are special.
Jamie, share yours. I want to hear yours.
We're gonna go this past year, probably one of them. I mean, I don't know. I would say the semifinal to go to the state championship at Cannon in 2021.
Mention that school's name because that's mine too. The same school.
So Cannon?
No, the school that you were playing against.
Oh yeah, against Metrolina. Yeah.
Yep.
So Metrolina, we were big rivals. I think at that point we had split, that we beat them the first year in the regular season. This is the second year. This is our second year at Cannon, and they beat us on like a Hail Mary. And in the regular season, we were down 28-14 in the regular season game. Came all the way back, and we were leading until late, and they hit us on a Hail Mary, and we lost the game in the regular season. We go back, win the first round playoff game. We were down in that game, came back and won that one. And then we got Metrolina. Like you said, man, we had a bandit drive at the end of the first half to tie it, and then at the end of the game, 49 seconds to go score. We had to drive like 65 yards, and we get to a 4th and 12 on like the 25, 26-yard line. I think it was a 36-yard line. We throw 4 verts, and somehow we get it to our best player, and he scores, and we're all going nuts. And it's like and we were away, and it was cold, and but it was just 2 really good teams. They were really well coached. Coach Langley does a really good job over there, and so I know they were pretty upset. But to lose on a Hail Mary and then to kind of win on one to go to the state championship, that was better than winning it. Winning the state championship the next game. So. But that was special. Yeah. What about you, Dustin?
So what's funny is, my favorite memorable game as a coach was also at Cannon, also against Metrolina.
Oh yeah, you had a crazy one.
And what's funny is, and I'll share this real quick. When I resigned from Cannon back in December, and I text Langley, or me and Langley were texting, and I said, "Hey man, I'll miss our rivalry games." He said, "I will not." Because it seems like there's always some Cannon magic ones when we play Metrolina. Mm-hmm. When Jamie was there and I was there, but senior night, first year at Cannon, we went for 2 early in the game off the swinging gate, and it was back and forth trading scores. There's like 2 minutes left in the game. We're losing by 6. We drive all the way down to the 6-yard line, and I'm like, okay, we're going to score, go up by 1, win the game. That's what I'm thinking. About 1:43 seconds, quarterback throws a pick 6. If the cornerback would have just fell down, we would have lost the game. He runs it all the way back, so now we're down by 13, 1:38 to go. We get the ball back, 3 plays, score. Phenomenal throw and catch by a really great quarterback. We kick the onside kick. They didn't align correctly, and our guy catches it in stride. And, everybody's nuts because he scores, but the high school rule is you can't advance the ball. We get the ball back, drive down the field, score, go up by 1, and came back, down 13 with 1:30 to go. And it was a big surreal moment for the seniors that have done so much. They're the same seniors that won the state championship when Jamie was there, and for them to go out like that versus such a big rivalry game. That
shout out Tyler Green.
Yep,
quarterback.
Tyler Green,
unreal, man. He started as a freshman for me in 2020, and then played for Dustin in his senior year.
He threw for like
the same quarterback,
3,100 yards a senior year. And shout out to Deuce, Colin Reese is at Catawba. He made a toe touch back of the end zone, best catch I've ever seen in high school.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. So hey, we'll move into the next one. All right, Coach, this one's going to be this or that. You're going into a game. You get to pick the defensive shell structure you're going to see. Are you choosing middle of the field open or middle field closed the entire game? Which one?
Close. Cover
close. Okay.
And
funny
side note, for the first time in my career, we were a cover 3 team this year. I never thought that would be the case.
That's awesome.
We did. We played.
Hey man, yeah.
Match 3 the whole year.
You did okay. You did match,
good.
So you kind of matched the same. So that helps out. That's good. Awesome.
That is awesome.
How about you, Dustin?
I always say, I'm always praying first round of the playoffs 4-4 cover 3. Come on.
Yeah.
And then for years, until we figured out how to play wing T, I always hated saying wing T, but now I'm always praying for a wing T team, because we feel good about how we line up against it.
Yeah. No, if right off the top, I started off as offensive coach about year 4. I made the switch to the dark side. I'm going to go middle of the field open. And here's my reason why. We've played a lot of teams that play middle of the field open coverage, and very few match their fit structure and coverage structure together. They'll play like cover 2 and have a 4-2 box, and there's nobody over the weak side number 2, so they have to play some kind of loose zero. We were air raid my 2 years at Cannon, And for some reason, middle of the field closed, we struggled the most throwing the ball. Middle of the field open, we average probably 380 a game in the air. It's just something about that. But I think when you start seeing teams with the middle of the field open beliefs, when you start adding multiple gaps and different formations, it's tougher. Yep.
Ain't going to pound those guys. It's going to be hard to fit.
I always, when I'm on the dark side, I always liked the too high because of the fits. Mm-hmm. I always felt more comfortable, and that came from being in college. But I like the way too high safeties can fit with the bounce player and the cutback player, so that you can let the linebackers roll. And that's what stopped me for so long. I couldn't understand how you fit the free safety in a cover three, and until we went to this bear front, and we went bear front for the first time this year, and that was my first question. I was talking to Tony Bateman, and I was like, all right, how do you fit the free safety? And he finally said, well, you don't. The free safety doesn't have to fit in a bear front. He's just an extra guy. Just have him run around and clean up. That the DBs don't fit. You're playing box ends.
Like secondary force.
So they're the secondary is independent of how the front fits. And it ended up being the simplest defense I've ever, we started out when I was at Valdosta State, we were a Miami 4-3 pattern read cover 2, and it was a monster to fit. I mean, it was, I remember we had a linebacker named Erasmus Harvey. He was an All-American and actually got a tryout with, I think, Cleveland. He went and he was in training camp with Cleveland. And I remember after practice one time, I said, all right, Raz, how are you reading this thing? And he said, Coach, when everyone starts running, I run that way. It's like, okay.
Like, all right, man, good reading. That's right. That's good stuff.
And I've always been my defense has always been extremely read dependent. Like, I wanted eyes on somebody. Somebody's telling you where to go.
Yeah, sure.
And Ras was he was just running where everyone else ran. So no matter how you do it, if you got some studs, it don't matter how you read it.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Coach, when you play middle of the field open, you're always going to be what I call a minus fit. So if there's 6 run gaps, you truly, if you're playing 2-high coverage, you only have 5 defenders until post snap. Then you got to have that extra guy fit in. What you're saying, when you go ahead and play middle of the field closed, you're putting a defender for every gap, which is why you don't have to have that free safety fitting. So, but yeah, no, it is. I think it's much simpler from a 1-high standpoint of fitting the run. There's less moving parts. But Jamie, which one you picking?
I always we always had a lot of, and I got it from the Colts. I was at an FCA camp or the Black Mountain, and then the D coordinator for the Colts was there, and it was the year they won the Super Bowl, and if you remember, they were playing crappy defense until the playoffs, and when the playoffs hit, all of a sudden for the rest of the playoffs, they were murdering people. And so, of course, I didn't ask. I was too intimidated to ask him. But someone asked him, who what happened? And he said, well, this guy got healthy, and he was the cutback player. We played a 2-high shell, and this was another one. He said, and we played 2-high against everybody because we wanted to know how to fit. We didn't care about their formation. We wanted to know how we were going to fit. So we played 2-high versus everybody. But this guy, and I can't remember his name, whoever he was, he'd been hurt during the regular season, got healthy for the playoffs, but he could fit the cutback. So when I'm talking about we want a bounce player and a downhill. So they're fitting, that backside safety is fitting downhill and then covering where those linebackers just left. And I just fell in love with it. It was easy to teach, and we always had, like, our safeties would have as many tackles and as the linebackers did because of the way that thing fit with the bounce and the cutback and just letting them linebackers roll. So I've always, it was a big deal to me to turn into a single high safety
Sure.
because I just could not figure out, like, is he the balance? Is he cut back? How is he? Until this guy said, he's neither. He's just an extra dude. Just tell him to run where everyone else is running.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you face a too high team, it could cause more post snap, I don't know, fits that may be weird, but I also think it creates more conflict defenders that you can take advantage of, like in the flats. So I'd rather see too high. I think it's easier to run the football, even if they're fitting from top down. I'll take the 5. I'll take the 5 or 6 yards. I think it's harder. I would try to get a too high team to go 1 high, is what I would try to do. So add gaps if you got the personnel to do it, those kind of things. But yeah, I'd rather see too high probably. But it could be hard if you're playing a bunch of, 7 mix and freaking the Nick Saban 7 world and all that stuff. So
I don't know what any of that is. You'll have to teach me some of that.
Cones and brackets, and I don't think we see any of that stuff. All right, last one, Coach. So right now, what are you kind of studying, or what's your best leadership resource stuff that you got? I don't know. It could be a long time ago. It could be recent, kind of given. I know you gave me one years ago that impacted my life, and that was the Good to Great series by Jim Collins. And man, I still use the flywheel, with the process. I still use the BHAG and the hedgehog concept and anything that we do. And that's been super impactful. What are you studying now? What do you like right now?
I'm rereading the Randy Jackson books.
Okay.
About halfway through the Culture Beats Strategy, number 1. So I just told myself I'm going to reread both of them, and then I'm going to get serious about writing mine, getting mine finished. But I wanted to refresh it because so many of his concepts. I told Randy, Brian Kane kind of like open the window to this world, but it was Randy Jackson when he wrote those books, and he's using real life. He was a high school coach in Texas. He made it real, and he made it very visual. Okay, this is how you do it. That's where we got the tie the core principle to the day stuff. There's a signal for each one of the core principles. The concept of, and I'm a true believer in this, that your coaches and your players, they got to know what your mission statement is.
Yep.
If they can't tell you, if you can't go into the weight room and point to a kid and say, what's our mission statement? If they can't tell you, you don't have one. And then the same with the core principles. If they can't stand up and say Monday's attitude, and this is the signal for attitude, and Tuesday's leadership, and this is the signal for leader. If they can't, and they can't tell you what the definitions are, then they're not real. So we're big on, we want to brainwash them into memorizing that stuff. And then we want to go into the complexities of it with the stories and the examples and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm in the middle of rereading, and I read it years ago when it came out, but I'm rereading Randy Jackson's book. And then as soon as I finish that one, I'm reading number 2, because both of those were so impactful to me and so made everything so real as far as culture is.
Well, Coach, man, we really appreciate you being on. I mean, it's been a great conversation.
If you'll let everyone listening know one more time, where can they access your content at?
Coach Joe Salas on YouTube.
Yep.
The book is on Amazon. High School Air Raid Playbook and Manuals on Amazon, and then the Air Raid Academy stuff is on Coach 2.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.